Jason Davis, a civil servant, hurries through the streets of London nervously. He calls his friends Maggie and Philip, telling them that he thinks he is being followed and asking if they got a call from an unnamed female. Jason is worried that maybe Philip may have spoken to someone. While Jason is on the line, both Maggie and Philip are killed in their apartments. Out of options, Jason makes one last phone call. He leaves a voicemail, telling the person he is in trouble. He is suddenly shot in the chest by a sniper and dies sitting on a park bench. In Rome, top-class assassin Sam sits in a pub when he gets a call but ignores it. The person continues to call, and Sam finally answers as his skills are being requested. Back in London, Secretary of State for Defense Wallace Webb lives with his wife, Helen Webb, and their kids. He soon gets news of the death of Chinese Ambassador Chen due to overdose and his missing daughter. The family heads out to a charity event where Helen gives a short welcome speech. After, they are approached by a woman named Reed, who has a casual conversation before leaving. Helen excuses herself from the party, then goes to secretly meet Reed, who tells her Jason Davis was killed, leaving Helen shocked. She plays it off like they are barely acquainted, but Reed knows the truth. Helen and Jason were lovers, and she has been keeping tabs on Helen. Helen finally admits it, and Reed offers her a smoke. It turns out Reed is Helen's handler, and Helen is really a spy known as a Black Dove. Reed wonders if Jason was an angle or an alibi for work, but Helen admits that she was in love with Jason. Reed tells her about Philip, who was a reporter, and Maggie, who worked in a jewelry shop, and they are all killed after Helen had lunch with Jason. Jason gave her a gift, and Reed has a picture of Helen with it and wants to know what's inside. Helen has a million questions, like if Reed was the one who killed them, but Reed denies this. Reed thinks her actions were reckless and stupid, and she has now put herself and the entire Black Dove organization at risk. Helen warns that if Reed pulls her, she is taking the kids, and if Reed tries to stop her, she will kill Reed herself. Reed calmly tells Helen her marriage to Wallace is too valuable to the organization, but a lot of people are now upset at her, and she is to stick to protocol while they sort this out. Helen returns to Wallace to play her role as the good wife. As she heads home, she is plagued with thoughts of Jason. Sam soon arrives in England and collects a car waiting for him. He gets to his hotel room, where Reed is waiting for him. She thanks him for coming back, but Sam only returned because of Helen. She wants to find out if Helen has targets after her, and based on the situation, Reed needs someone both she and Helen can trust. Helen is at home when she sees a news report about Jason's death. Wallace has to go into the office overnight as Ambassador Chen's death is suspected to be the cause of foul play. That night, Helen takes a look at Jason's gift to check for clues but finds nothing. She heads to his apartment, where his former landlord allows her to enter the apartment and look around. She notices something hidden behind a picture when she hears cops knocking at the door and sends Sam her location. Two female cops, Williams and Kent, are at the door, asking if Jason has had any visitors recently and learning that his girlfriend is upstairs. Helen hears the landlady get shot and goes to hide in the apartment. She hears the assassin enter the apartment and attacks them when they get close. Helen holds her own against the two assassins until Sam shoots Kent, killing her. Williams escapes. Helen is shocked and happy seeing Sam after all these years, and she hurriedly pulls a hard drive from the vent and leaves with Sam before the cops turn up. He knows the assassins but doubts they were the ones that killed Jason, as that's not their method. She tells him about her marriage, which she always wanted to get out of, but the kids came along, and her career became her life. It's not all bad, though, as the higher Wallace climbs in the government, the more powerful she will become. Sam, however, berates her for falling in love and thinks Jason may have gotten himself involved in something bad. They get back to Helen's home when she asks him to promise to keep her alive until she can get her revenge for Jason, and Sam promises to do his best. That night, she tucks her boys into bed before accessing the hard drive, where she sees messages he saved between them, even after she asked him to delete them. She finds it sweet and begins to relive the moments. She then sees a number Jason calls frequently and the name Cy and makes a note of them. Sam heads over to a music shop, which is a cover for a weapons provider. The old shopkeeper and Sam catch up before he allows Sam to pick out the weapons he needs. He is leaving when he runs into an old friend, Arnie, who is surprised to see Sam back in town and invites him over for dinner tonight, and Sam accepts. He heads to the park where Jason was killed to look for clues. He identifies the shooter's location and heads there. Helen tells him about the number and the names she got from the hard drive, but Sam tells her to let him investigate as he was tasked to protect her and doesn't want her involved. Helen logs into Wallace's computer and sees messages between himself and a new assistant who is inviting him to a pub and seems intrigued. Sam gets to the shooter's location, where he finds a bullet casing. He brings it to a woman working in a mall, George, who moonlights as a forensic analyst and has her run the casing for prints. Sam gets to Arnie's place and meets his husband, and they get settled in for dinner. Helen meets Reed in a theater. Reed knows about the assassin attack and reminds her not to get involved. Helen asks her to run the number she got from Jason and see where it leads before leaving. After dinner, Sam gets the name Elmore Fitch from George. He contacts Helen, who is determined to come with him to the address. Meanwhile, reports of Ambassador Chen's apparent murder and the search for his daughter Kai Ming begin to circulate, and Wallace, who is watching, becomes extremely worried. Turns out the number Jason was calling belongs to Kai Ming, and Sam thinks they stumbled into a conspiracy. Helen grabs a gun from her drawer, ready to take her revenge. A few years earlier, Helen, who was going by the name Daisy, applied for a job as a translator for a vague company. The interviewer seems to know a lot about Daisy, even about her stepsister Bonnie, who is currently locked up for killing her father and Daisy's stepfather. He tells Daisy he cannot hire her but then gives her a number to call and ask for Reed and mention the Black Doves. Daisy, though hesitant, meets Reed one night. Reed asks about her fluency in languages, but Daisy doesn't see the point of the questions. Reed reveals she is looking to hire Daisy to the Black Doves, a group of spies who deal in information solely for profit. Daisy is intrigued by the idea and the danger that comes with it but wonders why her. Reed explains that she has studied Daisy's background and knows of her brilliance and strategic mind and thinks she could do great things. After this, Daisy changed her name to Helen, and her first mission was to get close to Wallace, who at the time was just a budding congressman. She introduces herself to him at a bar, and he becomes intrigued by her. After sleeping together, Helen steals data from his laptop and delivers it to a young Sam, which was the first time they met. Before they leave, Helen remembers a lighter that belonged to her mother that she left behind and is determined to get it, despite Sam's warnings. She gets back to the apartment and picks up the lighter, but something about Wallace kept her there that night, and the rest is history. In the present, Helen goes to meet Sam, and they head out towards the assassin's address. Sam has heard of Elmore, a former SAS marksman with 45 confirmed kills who later became a freelance assassin. He wonders why Jason would be calling Kai Ming, and Helen recalls Williams and Kent mentioning searching for a woman she presumes is Kai Ming. As Sam talks, Helen realizes that Sam is a bit drunk, but he is adamant that he can still do his job. They get to the apartment, and a Christmas toy begins to move unnoticed. As they look around, Helen wonders what the odds are that a skilled assassin would leave a casing with prints behind. The lights begin to flicker, and Sam swiftly grabs Helen and jumps from the apartment as the room explodes and lands in water. Sam beats himself up for leading them into a trap, and Helen fixes her dislocated shoulder before they escape the scene. Helen gets back to check on her boys and texts Sam that everything's okay. After he leaves, a figure in dark clothing enters the home. Helen is in the kitchen getting a drink when she suddenly throws a knife at an assassin behind her and attacks him, but the man holds her at gunpoint. He reveals his employers believe she has a digital recording device, but Helen denies having it or knowing where it is. The recording device was in the possession of Kai Ming, but Helen denies knowing where she is. He warns Helen to tell the truth, or her family will be in danger, but Helen tells him to be very careful with his words. Helen figures out he is Elmore, Jason's killer. She asks what he knows about her, but he only knows her to be a politician's wife. Helen swiftly attacks him, and the two begin to fight until Helen manages to stab him in the hand and hold him at knife point. He tells her that Jason was just a job, and Helen demands to know who hired him, threatening to cut him to pieces. Elmore doesn't know his employer and was given just a photo and location. Helen plans to kill Elmore and his employers and leads him into the garden shed before killing him. Helen cleans up the mess before climbing into bed with Wallace. The next morning, Wallace tells Helen he is heading to a pub after work for the memorial of Jason. Sam is in a pub when he is approached by his former boss Lenny, along with Williams and her new partner Eleanor. Lenny hasn't seen Sam in 7 years after he ran out on her and is now looking for compensation for her loss. She asks about his current employer, but Sam refuses to talk to Lenny or work with her ever again. Lenny refuses to allow Sam to work for anyone else until he finishes a failed assassination of Hector Newman, who is now causing problems for everyone. To sweeten the deal, Lenny threatens to send Williams to kill Sam's ex, Michael, the love of his life. Sam pretends to not care, but his face says otherwise. Lenny leaves a picture of Hector, who has a drug den, telling him he doesn't have a choice. Williams reminds him that he still hasn't apologized for killing Kent, but even after he does, she promises to kill him. Sam goes to meet with Helen and Reed in a car. Helen tells him about Elmore's body in her shed, but she needs to find his employers as other assassins may be on the way. Kai Ming is the key to all this conspiracy, but Reed still cannot see the link between Jason and Kai Ming. Reed asks if Helen told Jason anything she shouldn't have about her profession, but Helen feels insulted and tells Reed to find Kai Ming before leaving. Helen returns home, where she begins to look into Kai Ming. She sees an article about Commissioner Stephen Yerrick, which she thinks could be Psy from Jason's messages, and recalls Wallace mentioning meeting Stephen at the pub. Helen gets to the pub, where she sees Wallace talking with Stephen. She heads to her car and uses a spy device to listen in on their convo and hears them talk about Ambassador Chen and how the Chinese are blaming the Americans. Wallace mentions speaking with Philip, who had evidence linking Stephen to the Chinese, after which he was killed, and wonders if Wallace had a hand in it. But Stephen denies any involvement and tells Wallace to stop reaching and get some rest. Helen heads to the park where Jason died. She recalls sharing a moment with him where she tells him who she really is. Sam is standing outside his ex's apartment when Williams and Eleanor turn up. He tells them he will complete the Hector job so they can leave, but they taunt him, thinking they will stick around, and remind him not to get sentimental. Sam heads out and calls Lenny, who warns him to get the job done if he cares about the people he loves. Sam gets to the location, gun ready, but everyone inside has already been killed. He heads to the second floor, where he sees more dead bodies and a cigarette still burning. In a room nearby, he sees a bed with cameras set up. He checks the cameras to see Kai Ming being held by Hector, but they hurriedly leave as gunshots are heard. In 2014, a young Sam heads to deliver the hard drive from Helen to Reed. She knows he is tired of doing odd jobs for the Doves and reveals that Lenny would like to employ him as an assassin. She allows him to take the job but reminds him he can no longer work for her, but this has been Sam's dream. He heads to Lenny's restaurant where she gives him his first task of taking out a man in a restaurant. She knows this is his first time, but Sam thinks he can handle it. Wearing a motorcycle helmet, Sam enters the restaurant, locates the man, and shoots him in the head. He returns to his car shaking, but Lenny tells him that will be the hardest one. 6 months later, Reed has Sam come in to train Helen to become a killer. The two catch up later where Sam explains that his father was a well-known hitman and he wanted to become like him. After Helen left was when he first met his ex Michael. He tells Helen about their first date at one of their training sessions and she tells him about the upcoming frequent trips that Wallace has planned for them. In 2017, Sam and Michael have a housewarming party when he sees Helen and Wallace on TV celebrating their party win. He soon gets a target from Lenny to take out the 3 Newman brothers who are building the drug empire. She also mentions the 4th Newman brother, Hector, but claims she doesn't have a photo. That night, Sam waits the Newman brothers and guns them down but hesitates when he sees a young Hector and eventually leaves him alive, lying to Lenny that it's all done. He returns home to Michael but is lost in thought. The next morning, Sam is making breakfast when 2 gunmen barge in, opening fire on him. He manages to kill the men, but soon more hitmen arrive outside, led by young Hector. In the present, Sam reports to Lenny about the scene at Hector's place. Lenny tells him about Hector's heavily guarded hideout in Peckham and urges him to get some help if he wants Michael to live. The following day, Sam approaches Williams and Eleanor, wanting their help to hit Hector's place. Williams is hesitant, but seeing the opportunity to raise their street cred, she gives him her price and he accepts. Williams, however, reminds Sam they aren't friends and still plans to kill him. Sam then meets Helen in a restaurant, telling her about the conversation she overheard and that Yerrick is suspected of being involved in Philip's death. They need to speak with Yerrick, but Helen doesn't want him to get hurt as he is an old friend of the family. Sam shows Helen the video recording of Kai Ming, telling her of the plan to finally get Kai Ming and some answers. Wallace learns that the Chinese want a meeting with him specifically. He asks what it's about, but his assistant has no idea. Meanwhile, Yerrick is ambushed by Sam at his kid's Christmas recital and led into a classroom. Sam demands to know what is on the recording that got Philip killed, but he denies knowing anything. Sam goes through his cell and sees him make numerous calls to someone saved as repair shop, and a message saying it's done the night Ambassador Chen was killed. Meanwhile, Helen and Wallace are inside the recital when he informs her that he is having a late-night meeting again. Sam plans to send a message to everyone in Yerrick's phone, but Yerrick warns Sam to walk away now before he gets hurt and slowly leaves, knowing Sam won't kill him in a classroom. He returns to the recital looking like he has seen a ghost. Helen returns home where she has Yerrick's cell phone and sends a message to repair shop warning that she will find them, but they reply that they will find her first. Wallace and Helen attend another function. She goes to the bar to get them drinks but returns to see Danny all over Wallace. Yerrick's cell phone begins to ring and it's repair shop. A man warns Helen that she has started something she cannot finish. She then gets a video of a bound and tortured Yerrick. Wallace goes to secretly meet with a Chinese envoy who reveals they have been conducting their own investigations into Ambassador Chen's death and have found Britain to be complicit. They show Wallace a video of Cole Atwood, Kai Ming's boyfriend, who turns out to be a CIA agent, fleeing Ambassador Chen's flat the night of the murder and running into the US Embassy. When the Chinese approached the Brits for security footage at first, they were told that none existed. They have approached Wallace secretly with the evidence, as instead of going live with the info, the Chinese government would prefer to review some security contracts. Wallace refuses to believe them, but they urge him to consider the consequences if he is wrong. Wallace returns to get Helen, who is with Danny at the bar, and when they say their goodbyes, Danny repeats a phrase that only Reed says. She remembers back in 2017 being pregnant with the twins. She approaches Reed, wanting out of the spy game as she refuses to involve her kids. Reed doesn't see a problem and notes that another black dove would be put in her place once she is gone. Helen returns to her apartment when she gets a phone call from a frantic Sam who just killed 2 assassins and needs to get Michael out. Despite being heavily pregnant, Helen promises to be there. Sam urges a frantic Michael to get dressed and stay close behind him. He exits the apartment carefully. Sam takes a bullet but is saved by Helen, who grabs Michael and tells Sam to run. She calls Reed, wanting her help to clean up the scene and get Sam out, promising to stay with the Black Doves. In the present, Sam, Eleanor, and Williams pass Hector's heavily guarded hideout. They arm themselves around the corner and Sam picks up his father's gun. He recalls his first hit in the restaurant where his target turned out to be his father. Williams reminds him he can still back out, but Sam knows he is now way in too deep. The trio approach the hideout pretending to be drunk and gun down the men posted outside. They blast their way into the compound and soon come under heavy gunfire. Sam goes searching for Hector but he is ambushed and knocked down. The two face each other again and Hector tells him he shouldn't have come back, and he is now involved in something way bigger than him. Hector kicks Sam's gun to him, as he knows that Sam does not want to kill him. Wallace heads to his office where he meets with Prime Minister Richard Eves and Jim from Secret Service to go over the accusations that Britain had a hand in the ambassador's death. They have called in CIA Station Chief Mitch Porter to provide some answers, but Porter denies the accusations. Wallace asks about Cole Atwood's involvement with the CIA but Porter denies knowing who that is. The men are then alerted to the death of Yerrick. Helen calls repair shop demanding to know who he is, but he is just a secretary of something bigger. He knows who Helen is, and when she asks if her family is safe, the man hangs up. Sam returns to the girls lying he didn't see Hector. They have however found Kai Ming and take her with them. Sam again apologizes for killing Kent and Williams thinks it's a part of their game. She plans to stay cold and stay alive and not end up like Sam, whose ghosts now haunt him. Williams and Kent plan to look after Kai Ming but demand extra payment. Wallace returns home breaking down in tears with Helen consoling him. He plans to find out who killed his friend and make them pay for it. Sam goes to Michael's apartment and runs into him. Michael demands to know why he is here, as he did everything that he was told to do and didn't talk to anyone. Sam wants to talk about the past, but Michael has nothing to say to him as Sam was lying to him all along. Helen is at home when she hears laughter and goes to see Danny playing with her kids and Wallace. Helen offers to see her off, but the two simply play it off. Helen goes to see Reed, who tells her about Cole Atwood and that the Chinese may retaliate. There is also a third anonymous party who have asked the Doves to intervene and help Cole undermine the Chinese investigation by offering him a ton of money. Sam goes to Williams and Eleanor's address where Lenny is also there, and Helen turns up soon after. Helen and Williams reconnect over trying to kill each other. Lenny then reminds Sam to find Hector if he wants Michael to live before leaving. Kai Ming soon jumps awake in a panic. They manage to calm her down and tell her they are looking for the people who killed her father. Kai Ming explains that after partying with Cole and friends, they returned to her home where they found her dad dead and Cole ran away. She also ran away to a drug den she frequented, but when the men found out who she was, they kept her and had questions about her friend Trent, who was also her dealer. Helen asks about Jason and is taken aback to learn that he and Maggie were partners. Helen tells Sam about her plan to infiltrate the U.S. Embassy and get answers from Cole, and he decides to join her. Helen is worried that everything between her and Jason was a lie, but Sam thinks partners could mean anything. He asks if she told Jason anything about her life, but she again denies this. She asks about his meeting with Michael, and the two bond over their broken hearts. They get to the embassy where Helen plans to meet a woman inside, Vanessa. She gives Sam her number, telling him to call in an emergency after a few minutes. Helen goes to meet Vanessa, but before Sam can call her, he gets a call from Michael, who wants to know who he really is. Sam explains he is an assassin with over 20 bodies under his belt but wants to call back to talk. Vanessa soon gets the call, and Helen steals a man's access card and makes her way to the elevators. She gets inside when an officer also joins her. The card gives her access to the floor and the officer offers to take a look, and Helen is forced to attack him. She calls Reed asking for someone to hack the embassy's CCTV and wipe the cameras. Meanwhile, Sam is trying to keep Vanessa on the line with questions about her security detail and a threat to her life, introducing himself as Kent Brockman. As they talk, she looks up the name only to see it belongs to a Simpsons character. Sam puts her on hold to call Michael, who is confused about reconnecting with Sam, so Sam tells him to text yes or no based on his decision. Helen finds Cole and hands him the offer letter when the embassy sirens begin to blare. Helen tells him he has 5 minutes to consider and meet in the car outside. Helen makes it back to the car and they wait for Cole. Meanwhile, at William's apartment, she is having a smoke and watching a Christmas party across the street. As they talk, she suddenly notices everyone gone. She calls Eleanor's attention to the empty streets, when they suddenly see a car pull up outside and armed men begin lining the street. Wallace and Danny are spending time at the office when she hints to Wallace that there is a rumor spreading about Helen. He demands to know, and she reveals that Helen is cheating on him. Cole makes it to the car and they leave with him. Helen wants answers about Ambassador Chen and the other deaths, and Cole is very hesitant to say. He reveals he was just on surveillance, but Ambassador Chen was not the target, it was the Clark family enterprise, a powerful wealthy family that has connections all over the world with their base in London. Kai Ming's friend Trent is actually the son of Alex Clark, head of London operations, and Cole was tasked with investigating the family when the ambassador's death stalled his investigation. The Clarks have been trying to suppress evidence into Chen's death and have killed everyone associated. They get to the drop-off location, when he reveals he told them everything and wants to know his family is safe. Inside the envelope are pictures of his family, and just then car lights appear in front of them. It is the Chinese, but Reed is also with them. Helen realizes Cole has been set up and asks him to help her get to Alex Clark and she will keep his family safe. He agrees, and Helen tells Sam to drive, just as he gets a yes from Michael. Williams and Eleanor are preparing for the attack, and Eleanor finds a rocket launcher in her closet. They tell Kai Ming to hide in the bath, just as gunshots begin to hit the apartment. Sam is trying to lose the chasing Chinese when they get stuck in traffic and continue to run on foot with Chinese agents in pursuit. They run into a busy shopping mall when they get a call from Williams about the situation at her apartment and urge Williams to keep Kai Ming alive as they make their way to them. They then hijack a cab and escape before the agents can get to them. By the time they get to Williams, the apartment is on fire with gunshots ringing out. Despite this, Sam decides to go in and get them. Wallace is summoned to Prime Minister Richard's office to meet the new Chinese ambassador Hang with CIA Station Chief Mitch there. He briefs the men about the attack on the embassy and Cole's disappearance and suspects the Chinese. Ambassador Hang still insists that Cole is Chen's killer and that Britain has failed to accept their proposal to cover things up. Richard refuses to review any military contracts with the Chinese, so Hang makes it clear that China will have no choice but to retaliate. At Williams' apartment, Sam manages to get Williams, but Kai Ming and Eleanor have been captured. We then see Richard making a call to someone demanding they get the recording device. Williams explains that Kai Ming and Eleanor went missing during the gunfight. She may have also been shot, and they need a place to hide out. With no other choice, Sam brings them to Michael's apartment, begging him to help them. Sam introduces the crew, and Michael is worried that they may bring trouble to him and his daughter after seeing news reports of gunshots downtown. Sam reassures him that his daughter will be safe, and he goes to look for items to help a wounded Williams. Just then Helen gets a call from repair shop. They have Eleanor and Kai Ming alive for the moment and demand the digital recording device to be handed over or they die. Helen tells them they don't have it, but they don't believe her and demand it be handed over by tomorrow at an address or Kai Ming and Eleanor die. They know they won't find the device by tomorrow, so Helen demands that Cole help them find Trent so they can get a meeting with Alex Clark. Sam goes to sit alone in the bathroom when Helen comes to join him. He reveals he told Michael about his work and is worried he won't want to speak after today. Helen then comes clean about also telling Jason about her work as a spy but tried to keep it as vague as possible. Helen has to head back home and urges Sam to find Trent. She gets in and greets the family claiming she was doing Christmas shopping, but can see that Wallace is acting strange. She sends the kids off to bed, and Wallace asks about her shopping. He asks if she is happy, and she insists that she is, but Wallace thinks their perfect marriage is a little too perfect. There is a knock at the door, and Helen grabs her gun when Wallace goes to check. It is MI5 officer Perryman who has questions about her visit to the embassy. She tells them about visiting Vanessa but leaving when the alarm started. Perryman asks the reason for the visit, and Helen almost freezes but tells him it was just a friendly one. She goes to put the kids to bed when she gets a call from Reed. She lies to Wallace that she is going out shopping, but he can see through the lie. He reminds her that he loves her and the life they have created together and he wants to fight for what he loves, but Helen has to go. She goes to meet Reed, demanding to know why she would lie about the mission, but Reed thinks Helen has gone soft. She reminds Helen they work for the highest bidder and needs Cole handed over to the Chinese to avoid an international incident. Helen asks about the Clarks, and Reed explains they are very dangerous and not even she does business with them. Helen explains they are responsible for Jason's and all the other deaths so far, looking for a recording device that would prove who killed Ambassador Chen. If found, Reed wants to be in possession of the device and would make some calls to ease pressure from the Clarks. She also reveals that Jason may not have been who he said he was, based on the visit from MI5. Reed reminds her that if she told Jason anything about herself, she would have broken the Black Dove's main rule, which is a crime punishable by death. She demands Cole be handed over to a certain address or their business relationship will come to an end. Sam and the others see breaking news about the Chinese accusing the Americans of killing Chen and know that all hell is about to break loose. Sam is having a chat with Michael about reconnecting when he gets a call from Reed who wants him to kill Alex Clark. She is concerned about the safety of Helen and the Black Doves and wants to put an end to this mess. She also needs Cole as part of the deal to stop the Chinese and Americans from going to war. Sam accepts and requests the details. He comes out to check for Cole, but he is missing. He goes to see Michael, telling him he is taking his last mission and then he will be able to show Michael who he really is. Sam heads over to the address and sneaks inside, gun drawn. He enters a room and prepares to fire on the bed when a man rests a gun to his head. Alex asks if he's here to kill her before the man knocks Sam out. Reed is at the location waiting on Helen to arrive, But Danny is there telling her that Helen can no longer be trusted, and Reed agrees. Helen is in bed when she remembers the gift Jason gave to her and that Maggie also worked in a jewelry shop. She becomes suspicious and finds the shop downtown. She approaches the shopkeeper, then knocks him unconscious by sticking him with a needle. She then hacks into the store's vault and digs around until she finds the recording device. She turns to leave when she runs into Danny, who has been tracking Helen. She reveals she is a black dove and confesses to telling Wallace about her affair as a means to finally replacing Helen. She makes the mistake of mentioning Helen's kids, and Helen removes her coat and closes the store down. The two pull out knives, and Danny is excited to get going. The two fight, but Helen almost chokes her out but decides to let her live, making her promise not to mention her kids again. She leaves a message for Reed, telling her to come replace Helen herself. Helen returns to her car where she accesses the recording device to see a video of Ambassador Chen confronting Trent about giving Kai Ming drugs. The two shoved each other, and Chen accidentally hit his head and died. Trent began to freak out before calling his mother, Alex, who then sent Yarrick and a team over to cover up the crime, and she hears him mention notifying the Prime Minister and realizes he is also involved. Sam wakes to see Kai Ming and Eleanor bound in front of him. Helen calls Reed, insulted that she sent a teenager to take her out. Reed explains that she has become unreliable after Jason's death and even brought in Sam to help her out. She reveals she sent Sam to take out Alex Clark. Helen becomes worried for Sam and demands the address, but Reed wants the recording device, adding that the device outweighs the life of even Sam. Helen tells her she is no longer in control and hangs up. She then sees Trent on video wearing a London City Stables hat and decides to take the fight to them. She picks up Williams and they head out. They get to the stables where they find Trent and show him the video, demanding to speak with Alex. He refuses, and Williams holds a gun to his head. Helen reveals that Alex has Kai Ming and can see he is in love with her. Trent relents and calls Alex. Helen tells her that they will drop off the video, but if they are set up or her friends are hurt, she will kill Trent. They head towards the drop point. Trent reveals that he is not like his family and would only get drugs for Kai Ming because that's what she wanted. We then hear Reed talking to CIA Station Chief Mitch, who is paid to get a hold of the video. Mitch meets with Cole, planning to send him to intercept the video. Helen, Williams, and Trent arrive at the meeting location, and Helen secretly hides a gun in Trent's jacket. The guards at the door take Williams's and Helen's guns and allow them inside. They enter a room where they reunite with Sam, Eleanor, and Kai Ming and free them. As they are about to leave, Alex enters the room. Helen verifies that Trent killed the ambassador by mistake, and Alex calls Trent a mistake himself. Helen notes that she came only with one man, the voice behind Repair Shop, but Alex is confident she cannot be touched as the consequences would be brutal for everyone. Alex plays the video, and Kai Ming is shocked to learn the truth. Wallace learns about the tape and goes to talk with Richard, explaining that the CIA are on their way to intercept it. Richard secretly alerts Alex, preparing to leave as everyone got what they wanted. Helen stops her as she hasn't received answers for Jason's death. Alex warns them to leave with their lives, but Helen pulls the gun from Trent's jacket. They warn her to back down, even Sam trying to convince her, but Helen wonders why Alex thinks she can hurt the people she loves and not pay for it. Alex asks her the source of her vengeance, and Helen explains she needs answers about who Jason really was and why he had to die. Alex remembers Jason but reveals she did not order the hit. Helen remembers that Williams was once employed by the same people and tells her to call the number she was to report to. Williams dials, and Trent's phone begins to ring, shocking everyone. He claims he wanted to prove he could fix the mess he made. Helen holds the gun to him, and both Alex and Sam beg for his life. Outside, CIA agents turn up, but soon the Chinese also arrive, and there is a tense standoff. Inside, Sam tries getting Helen to go, but she refuses. Alex tries to disarm her, and Sam swiftly kills Repair Shop. The agents outside hear the gunshot and open fire on each other. Sam also kills Alex and then Trent. Helen wanted it to be her kill, but Sam hugs her, telling her it's over. Alex's phone rings, and a man tells them they will be held accountable. Helen walks outside where agents from all sides lay dead. Cole holds her at gunpoint, but Helen hands him the recorder, telling him to clear his name. He tells her he knows who she really is but is good at keeping secrets. Wallace and Mitch are meeting. The recording has been released, and Yarek's involvement has implicated some people. He realizes that Wallace has no idea and is happy that Wallace is clean. Helen and Reed meet in a chapel. Reed explains that there was another party in play that both the Chinese and the CIA missed and has been watching Ambassador Chen's family. This person is Maggie, who has been secretly recording Kai Ming and selling stories to tabloids. She saw the video, but Philip also had access to the recordings and started digging around. Yarek caught on and alerted the Clarks, who had Philip followed, where they also found Maggie, Jason, and also Helen. Reed then reveals that Jason was actually MI5 and she was simply a mark. After finding this out, Reed discovered Jason worked for a task force set up to look for leaks in the government, and Helen was their main suspect. Helen is devastated, learning her love was not real, but Reed tells her Jason's reports cleared Helen of being a spy. She hands Helen a drive on everything she dug up on Jason. Richard is set to resign soon, and someone new will take his place. She hints that Helen will like her new role as the Prime Minister's wife, and despite straying a bit, Helen is still a dove. Sam returns to Michael. He asks if everything is over, but Sam cannot answer. The two are in bed when Sam hears someone inside and grabs his gun. He sees someone sitting on his couch who turns out to be Hector. Hector tells him he still owes him for his brother's deaths but is conflicted as Sam spared his life. He knows about Sam and the Clarks and knows they will be coming for him soon. He surprisingly offers Sam a job, noting he won't have to face what is coming alone if he does. He wonders why Sam spared him all those years, and Sam tells him he was just a child. Hector is pleased knowing Sam has some good in him before leaving. Michael overhears all this. Sam gets ready, and the two say their goodbyes. Helen is sitting alone on the bench where Jason died, holding the drive, but decides to toss it away and walk away. Sam goes to see Lenny, who has grown tired of hunting for Hector. Sam reveals Hector offered him a job. He then pulls his gun on Lenny, giving her the choice of leaving everything in the past or dying where she sits. He looks into Lenny's eyes then decides not to kill her and tells her goodbye. Helen returns home where she is greeted by her kids and Wallace. The family sits together opening presents, and Wallace holds her hand, glad to have her back. The next day she invites Sam to come over and join them for dinner. Sam soon arrives and joins the family. Later he tells Helen he will be sticking around London for a while. He won't get to have his happy ending with Michael and notes that people like them don't get to do that.